Hi all. So a while ago on YouTube, I stumbled down a wormhole of small kitchen appliance reviews. As I was looking to buy an air fryer and perhaps maybe a pressure cooker, that's when I stumbled across one of the worst YouTube chefs of all time. His name is Jack Scalfani, as I like to call him, Jack Salmonella Scalfani. I watch video after video of him butcher, sometimes quite literally, recipes. Imagine driving slowly past a multi-car pileup on the interstate. That's my face as I watched him teach the internet how to make partially cooked meals of varying types and taking awful and unneeded shortcuts to recipes that are already quick to prepare. The absolute horror of Jack's lazy man chefing, air quote, techniques to my boyfriend Tom. And now, since we can't unsee it, we are opening your eyes to it as well. I'm Michelle, and I welcome you to join us for this horrific journey, better known as Pink Chicken and the Lazy Man. Welcome back to Pink Chicken and the Lazy Man.
Pink Chicken and the Lazy Man. Hello, folks.
I'm Michelle Pink Chicken.
And I'm Tom the Lazy Man. We are finishing up our 4th season of Pink Chicken and the Lazy Man, closing a chapter on our Cooking with Jack podcast.
And we are bookending the Brine series of Cooking with Jack.
Yes, what we like to call the Cronenbird trilogy. That included a surprise 3rd chapter when he decided to go after Julia Child's butter chicken recipe.
We'll get to that next season, so stay tuned for that.
This is the initial duology of Jack trying out his experiment using a wet brine and a dry brine chicken.
And the dry brine is just as bad, if not worse, than the wet brine.
It's really close.
I don't know what's worse at this point.
The wet brine chicken, I think, was by far the worst because he left the giblet pack in the bag.
Oh, yeah, that was pretty bad.
He's now on the roaster pan here, you'll see in a few minutes. He leaves the innards of the chicken there, but at least he takes them out of its plastic bag that they came
he shrinky-dinkied those last ones.
He shrinky-dinkied the fuck out of those, yes.
The wet brine chicken, I feel like, was quite underdone. The dry brine chicken, in comparison, is quite overdone. Well, mostly overdone. We're not really sure.
The skin of it is definitely incinerated.
Yes.
I was joking with Pink Chicken. I said it looks like he fought the chicken in a lightsaber duel on Mustafar. She had no idea what that means. And still,
I don't.
So we're just going to go on.
Nope.
Just going to go on. Hopefully you all enjoyed the Obi-Wan series as much as I did. Jack tries to learn from his mistakes. I think he figured out that by all the reaction to the wet brine video, because that video got like 10 times his normal view count for his last latter-day videos.
I really don't know if he's figured out why that is, though. He's like, wow, this is what the people want. Me roasting chickens. No.
Again, Jack likes to think of himself as an artist, but also kind of like a scientist, some kind of food poet, that when he goes into these like long-form experiments, as he calls them, first of all, what self-respecting television or on-air personality chef would refer to anything they make in their kitchen as an experiment? You would just think he would have the sense not to do that. Not Jack.
It's not really an experiment. It's like, there's a new recipe I want to try. Okay, I'm going to study the recipe. I'm going to gather all the ingredients. I'm going to watch maybe a video or two on it, or listen to maybe a podcast on it or something. You're going to read a cookbook. You're going to ask your friends, hey, have you ever made this? How did you do it? Do you have a recipe for it? No, Jack's like, fuck it. I want to make a chicken. I don't really know how it's going to turn out. Let's just, whatever. Put all the spaghetti at the wall.
Again, we come to one of our central theses of season 4, which is Jack is a deluded fool. It's beyond a star-fucking celebrity wannabe. Jack is a deluded fool. He has no concept. Because remember, Jack's existence is not what he wants you to think it is. Jack wants you to think that he's on the set of a television show based around his cooking called The Cooking with Jack Show. Jack is in his own residential kitchen. His wife / social worker caretaker, Tammy, takes care of him because Jack is a disabled person who won't admit to his own disability.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's also self-inflicted.
He's not admitting.
Right. But Jack is a deluded fool in his kitchen, standing in front of a DSLR camera he bought at the local Walmart, because that's the make and model camera that Walmart sells, the DSLR that he uses for this. But Jack has for a decade and a half just basically been a guy in his kitchen recording videos, uploading them to YouTube. That's all he knows. And then they send him a check every month. Jack is not a video production professional at all. Jack is not a studied commercial chef.
He's not a chef. He's not any kind of radio personality. He's not a television personality. He has none of these skills. He is totally pretending.
Yes.
He has pretendinitis.
Jack is doing what I and what nearly every other camera person I know, or anybody when they were small, that really wanted to get into television production. Before you even knew any of the technical aspects of it, when you were single digits age, the neighbor boys and I were fascinated by ENG, the electronic news gathering, the television news program, because everybody dressed well, and they talked well, and they seemed important, and the police would talk to them, and they had all this technology. They had cameras and trucks full of strange broadcasting equipment with antennas and dishes on the top of them. It was the most high-tech thing in our existence. At the time, there was no internet, there was no computers, personal computers were barely a thing. Some people had computers, but they had green and black screens, they weren't color, there were no games. Computers weren't the high technology. Television, broadcast television was the high technology. And so the neighbor boys and I would take a cardboard box, cut a hole in it, put a cardboard tube through it, take a toilet paper roll, put a crumpled up piece of aluminum foil on the end of it, and literally run around the neighborhood pretending to be the broadcast cameraman and journalism that we saw on the TV that night. That metaphor is what Jack is doing even onto this day.
Now.
Right. Jack is like, I'm gonna be, see that Guy Fieri? See that is Gordon Ramsay? I'm just like them. See, they're on the little box in my living room. I'm on my little box in my living room. We're the same. No, Jack, you're not.
No.
And this video, among others, is one of the best concrete examples of Jack having no idea about any of this. He doesn't know how to cook. He doesn't know how to record. He doesn't know how to white balance. He doesn't know how to focus. He doesn't know how to edit.
He doesn't know how to be a human.
He doesn't know how to white balance. And yeah, more disturbingly, he doesn't understand not to eat undercooked food.
This episode was recorded because this is the end of our season here, but we started the season a year ago. So we've been kind of dragging our feet here, getting it going.
We're going to use the standard stock excuses of labor shortages, supply chain issues, and that pesky pandemic.
Yes.
Pick one of those, that's what we're going with.
Yeah, but this episode was recorded May 11th, 2021. So more than a year. Think about these things while we're talking to you, because Piggy is still in the background of this video.
Yes, this is very much a throwback episode.
We still have steam gloves. We still have the bistro sign, because the bistro sign has been hidden. We still have the cafe sign. That's been hidden. Jack's still wearing his Bitmoji shirt. That's now a thing. That's not a thing anymore.
A well-stained Bitmoji shirt.
There's 18,918 views as of this recording, which is July 4th, baby. Yeah. Going in with a bang.
I want you to know that both Pink Chicken and I have dedicated ourselves in the next 6 to 8 months to completing our 5D diamond portrait of the 45th President of the United States riding a velociraptor, eating a hamburger in one hand, shooting an Uzi
Not just any
in the
hamburger.
other. Right.
It's got to be a Big Mac.
The old styrofoam non-biodegradable container.
Exactly.
Because America.
Because America.
Right. And we both love diamond painting so much.
Fuck yeah, we do. It's like bedazzling your jean jacket back in the day.
Well, I think as one of our greatest presidents, it may have been John F. Kennedy who said this, adult coloring books are for pussies. Diamond painting is where it's at. I could be paraphrasing.
Yeah, you may be paraphrasing. Yeah.
This video was released on May 11th, 2021. This is one of the few videos Jack has released in the past 2 years that have gotten above 10,000 views. Again, what Jack not understanding is this is not one of those videos that people are watching to get some cooking tips. This video is so popular because people like us are following it because of words like Cronenbird.
Yes.
And Chernobyl Farms accident. And oh my god, what happened to that poor chicken? Have you seen this?
And fat snot.
Right.
Among other things.
Right. This is not a fricasseeing chicken. This is a Musta-frying chicken.
Wow. With that in mind, I think we should get into it here.
Absolutely. Video's only 9 minutes long. We've been babbling on here for about 25.
Of course we are.
That's what we always do.
That's what people have
come to know, love, and respect about Pink Chicken and the Lazy Man.
Heck yeah. Oh, by the way, if you're not following us, every Saturday, except for next Saturday, we will be doing a live stream at 2 p.m. EST. Follow us for the Boys Club. Woo! On YouTube and watch your socials, Facebook, Twitter. We have a Discord channel now.
Right.
We'll link those all down in the description below.
I want to set up a Truth Social account, but Pink Chicken won't let me.
No, I don't want them to glow. No glowies.
Say goodnight to YouTube later, folks. We are hitting play in 5, 4, 3, 2. All right, we are in the Scalfani kitchen. It is, I don't know what to say about it. It's overexposed a little bit. It is grainy as fuck. I have no idea how he does this.
Digital confetti.
There's artifacting going on all over the place. I don't know if it's when he compresses the video at the end before he uploads it. It is a 4:3 aspect ratio. Am I just noticing this? The video was uploaded at 1920 by 1080p at 60 frames per second. But that is clearly a 4:3 aspect ratio, so this is not widescreen.
That's weird. I just noticed that too. Like, what the heck is going on with that?
I think Jack fucked up his formatting. I think Tammy or whoever helps him set up his camera knocked it out of...
Yeah, the wrong button or something.
He doesn't know.
Jack has a chicken laying out on a baking tray, which, what did you say, Lazy Man, looks like an alien autopsy?
Yeah, well, it looks like an alien. I said the chicken, looking at the chicken now, the chicken is probably acting like an alien abduction. You know, and the chicken is like, well, how long was I out? I was driving in my car at night and there was a bright light above me. Where am I? Why am I on a table? Oh my God, my legs! You know, that's what I imagine the chicken is thinking right now.
Now, what's interesting...
Jack is thinking meat.
We don't get into the intro until about 90 seconds into the video.
Yeah,
so a
that's
minute
where
30.
we paused it.
That's where we paused it. What's interesting looking at these chickens and various meats he's grilling and smoking and baking and whatever, he doesn't call them by their name. He's not like, wow, this is a delicious chicken. Wow, these are great. This is a great leg of lamb or wonderful ribs. Libs.
See, that's why I want a Truth Social channel, so we can roast those pesky libs.
He just calls it meat.
Meat.
It just falls into one funnel, one category, and that category is meat.
Well, on Jack's Maslow's pyramid of needs, the whole bottom tier of the pyramid, from socket to socket, is just labeled meat. It's not air, it's not oxygen, it's not love, it's
Water.
not touch, none of that. Just meat. That is the base of Jack's pyramid. Meat. And as much as he can get in his cram hole. Because remember, Jack is food insecure. Jack's stories of when he grew up are all traumatic. You know, he describes them glowingly, but if you listen to Jack's thing, he was starved as a child.
Yeah, he lived in the attic.
Right.
He was fed turkey
in the hobo commode.
In the hobo commode,
right,
yes.
with whatever spaghetti sauce social worker mom could throw together. It was a nightmare of a childhood, really. He never got dessert in a restaurant, ever.
I forgot all about that, yes.
There are certain things Jack says that Jack tries to connect to his audience. He tries to connect to other human beings. But when he reveals his truth, it is horrifying. And you're like, oh my God, you poor, poor man. You should be getting therapy. You should be seeking therapy.
Yes.
You should be seeking therapy, not celebrity, because it's not going to heal you,
right,
Jack.
Right. We're back in the Scalfani kitchen.
The old smoky Glenn Lacey intro has played.
Yes.
Da-da-da-da-da.
What's interesting about the alien autopsy here is Jack, this time, as compared to the wet brine, has pulled the giblets out and has removed them from the plastic bag.
Right, he knows there's a giblet bag.
Nope.
All Jack did was open the bag and dump it on the tray.
Yeah, so it's still on the tray.
Up by his dead strokey arm, you can see there's a piece of chicken innard laying there. I don't know what it is. An extended
liver,
piece of the gizzard.
I don't know. Yeah, there's something.
The trachea, the esophagus. There's some non-meat part of the chicken. Some organ or organelle.
Think about what you're talking about. That is definitely meat, right?
In the meantime, Jack has dumped out his full can of buttermilk powder. So in the wet brine video, he used actual cream buttermilk. In this video, he's using buttermilk powder.
The can and the texture of the powder that he's dumped out.
In way too small of a bowl.
It looks like fucking powdered baby formula.
Right, and
which there's a shortage of right now.
Well, there's no shortage of it in that bowl, chicken. So he starts off with oregano and basil, and you're like, okay, so this is like an Italian herb. Then he grabs the cilantro lime seasoning that they got from Sam's Club for reasons.
From what he said, from his own admission, and from what we saw in the other one, these are the same seasonings he used in the wet brine. Now, we don't know that they're the same measurements as the wet brine, because he's just
he wouldn't know that either. Right.
He's just
Jack does not measure.
Right,
Jack shoots by eye.
Right.
Jack is such a considered culinary professional that you know how, some people are just like, that's a teaspoon, that's a tablespoon. And you know if you measured that, because they've been in kitchens their whole lives, it would be a tablespoon.
Right.
Not Jack. Jack measures by the Mount Fuji or the Exxon Valdez method. If it's a dry ingredient, Jack has to pile it to the sky like a mountain. If it's a wet ingredient, Jack has to coat the surface up. So now Jack is trying to stir his buttermilk herbal crunch here with his double pipe fork, which I hate. And then at a certain point, there's just a dissolve. You just see him using his hand because he's like, oh, my hand's dirty anyway.
We're at like 3:59 because this is moving pretty fast. Right. What I would do in this situation, which I don't know if he eventually figures it out here, dump a little bit of this brine on the top of it and kind of massage it in.
Work it in. You want to work it in.
Like, you don't want to just coat it powder.
This is where you see the multi-layers of Jack's brain and the lower echelons of the Jack need pyramid override the cerebellum. The Jack's little lizard brain that's like, meat, more meat, meat, more meat now.
Right.
That little gremlin in the base of Jack's brainstem is fighting with the cerebellum. It's like, well, this is an experiment where we explore between a dry brine and a wet brine. And the little thing is like, no, more, meat.
This container of buttermilk is a lot because I've watched other YouTube moms. Like, you can take this buttermilk
powder,
mix it with a couple other ingredients, and do like a cheap version of
double wide ranch. If you can't scrape together the couch cushion coinage to buy yourself a packet of Hidden Valley Ranch to make the quasi homemade buttermilk ranch dressing we all love, you can make your own craft style small batch ranch dressing by using the buttermilk powder and an assortment of spices.
And I don't know if it's cheaper or not. It may or may not be. I don't know what that container of buttermilk is because I've never purchased one. For how big this chicken is, or
artisanal ranch.
How small this chicken is. He would have been fine just doing half of the container. Right. If that. He dumped the whole fucking thing in there.
Jack's lower base brainstem reptilian brain going, meat, more. If Jack sees the bottom of the container, he's going to use it to the bottom of the container. He has to use everything. Jack has to use everything.
And then some.
He's filling a big hole of trauma here, folks. He needs every gram and dram of thing he can get to try to fill that hole. Speaking of filling a hole, he is packing on the dry buttermilk powder. We're picking back up.
3:59, we're going back in. He's crumbling the
buttermilk powder
all over the chicken. Now he's kind of rubbering it. He's rubbing it in.
And this is where he starts shoving. This is where he starts shoving his two fingers into the neck cavity of the turkey.
He struggles trying to flip it over too.
In the neck cavity of the chicken, trying to flip it over. He tries to flip it over 3 or 4 times, and then we get a jump cut dissolve.
So we assume that mommy wife had to get off the couch or whatever she was on.
And you can see now there's a huge dissolve cut at 4 minutes and 40 seconds. And now it's the next day because Jack has changed his shirt.
He's wearing the moo shirt versus the stained Cooking with Jack watermelon shirt.
He's traded out the buckets of seasoning, the pop-top buckets of seasoning, for 2 baking sheets now.
By the way, those pop-top buckets of seasoning, they have been replaced, as we know, as you'll see in later videos, but they were all labeled. Yes. So there was one that said oregano. Somebody went through with a labeler and labeled all of those pop-top jars.
Are you saying someone went through with a Brother P-Touch type labeler and labeled all those pop-top jars?
Possibly.
So someone applied P-Tops to his pop-tops?
Yes.
We pause the video in 5 minutes and 8 seconds because we have to talk about the baking sheets.
The next day. We're at the next day.
Right.
So this was brining in the Scalfani fridge overnight.
Jack's in a moo-moo.
He's in his moo-moo. The chicken is still on the baking tray from the day before.
At least the day before, because if you listen later on in the episode...
It sounds like it may be more than that, but we're not really sure because, Jack math is kind of hazy.
Right.
But the thing looks like it's just basically a pile of flour.
Jack's recipes, especially these experimental ones, are never about precision. It's never about precise measurements. It's never about precise ingredients. It's never about precise temperature and time. It's always like, I did a thing, and then I did another thing, and then this thing over here, and look at it, beautiful. Now I get to shove meat in my mouth.
He definitely fucking coated these, whatever the neck, or whatever the gizzards, or the innards, coated those too.
Whatever came in the giblet bag that they shove in the chicken that you make your gravy or stock out of, he coated that too, because Jack's eating every bit. Jack is eating neck to balls balls of the chicken. Jack is going headless head to toe of this chicken. Jack is getting all the meat he can.
I thought because like it was on the pan as an alien autopsy, like, oh, he was gonna pick those off and throw them away.
Hey, that's what we thought in the Wet Brine video too.
Whatever.
I had no such misgivings now.
He fucking used them. But there's also a weird splotch in the...
At the very bottom of the frame, there's a pile of goop, of buttermilk powdered goop.
It's brownish, almost blackish.
It looks like a dead rat or like a bat. It looks like you see little 2 feet hanging on the bottom of it. It looks like a dead little brown bat or something. And there's something on the bottom of the tray which is not part of the chicken.
Right.
Which any other self-respecting human, much less video professional, much less cooking professional, would have looked at that and said, oh, I can't film that. I don't know what that... We gotta clean that up. Just pause the camera. We'll go back. Not Jack.
Well, the whole thing is disgusting because...
One take, we're doing it live, baby. Woo!
There's powder
just like
all over that tray.
What Jack doesn't understand is the English language. Because both the wet brine and the dry brine videos are brine. If you're doing a brine video, you don't want the brine. The brine is typically some kind of salt or just something to season or flavor or render the meat more juicy. It's a pre-cooking stage. It's not part of the cooking process.
Well, what's interesting here, because we're still paused, it's like 5:08. Jack's like, I was gonna put it in the oven like this. Tee-hee, I'm such a goofball.
He calls himself a goofball, yes. And now you know if Jack says that, I'm such a goofball, that means Tammy was standing at the corner of the kitchen watching him, silently, judging him. And then she's like, what are you doing? I'm gonna put the chicken in the oven, mommy wife. Look at it. There are piles of dry milk powder on that. And you're gonna put it in the convection oven, which means that's gonna start toasting and get blown around by the convection, and the fucking oven is going to be a goddamn mess. Mm-hmm. It's going to be coated in dry,
and guess who's cleaning it up?
Milk powder that's burnt. I think little Jackie got yelled at by mommy wife here, and that's why he's trying to play it off as kind of like he's being a little coquettish about it, but I think Jack got yelled at. And you can see the anger coming out towards the end of the video as we get there, but for right now, at 5 minutes and 8 seconds, there's a chicken that is just coated in gunk, in buttermilk powder gunk. It looks like it has extra tentacles.
Oh, yeah,
there's two. There's
like
you can see the two
pieces.
drums. You can see the chicken is splayed like a GYNOB exam at the camera. The chicken's legs are parted. You see drumstick and drumstick, but in between the drumsticks, there's like 3 more drumsticks of fat or goop or chicken innards.
My thought is,
it looks alien.
We've just got out of Julie and June.
Welcome back to Cronenbird.
So there's a whole Julia Child channel on Pluto TV, which you can watch for free.
And we do.
And
we fall asleep to it, we wake up to it.
And she was cooking with Jacques Pepin. She was cooking with him, and she said that there are sometimes these like flaps of fat that come off of the back of the chicken, like where the butt of the chicken would be.
Right.
You cut those off.
Oh, no, you don't. You leave them on there because that's more meat, mommy wife.
You cut those off there. You could use them for stock or whatever. No. The other thing that's weird, you don't notice it in this particular frame, but the breast kind of looks
weird. Okay, it looks like a goddamn horseshoe crab coated in sand on the plate. Jack does not trust the chicken. Jack does not put wingtips back. Jack does nothing to this chicken that even the most elementary, basic cooking channel would tell you to do if you are going to roast a chicken.
They said to snip those, right? This is one view of it here. If you look at it maybe 2 segments down, it looks kind of like the one side of the breast is kind of collapsing and the goo is kind of coming out, like the chicken goo is kind of coming out.
Like Jack's head.
Possibly.
So we're going to hit play.
And the entire roasting technique here is fucked because...
Which we don't see, by the way. So all Jack's going to do is he's going to pretend to transfer to the tray, and then the video is going to jump cut. But we'll get there in a second. So we're hitting play again. It's at 5 minutes and 8 seconds. So Jack is molesting the chicken. Yeah. He's finger painting the buttermilk powder off the chicken.
The other thing to note
here
is the other videos that we watched with people doing this completely rinsed the brine off of the chicken.
You want to get rid of the brine.
Patted it dry.
Now he has transferred the chicken to the Easy Bake oven baking sheet with the cookie targets on it. And he has wiped a minuscule amount of the gunk.
He hasn't wiped shit off of that chicken.
I could see small windows of pink flesh, of chicken flesh, sticking out from where there was piles of buttermilky gunk. The 3, they look like potatoes coming coming out of the chicken's butthole. Anybody else roasting a chicken like this, always make sure to show the transverse side of the chicken, not the longitudinal side. Because the longitudinal side, you don't have the chicken's ass.
If you're using a convection oven, roasting pan he has here and the baking sheet are entirely incorrect for this. You want to lift it off of the surface it's baking on to get the air up underneath to kind of warm it through from the bottom and the top. You want the air circulating all the way around and through the chicken. I would say the baking sheet kind of retards the process. It's the thing with the baking sheet is it's to prevent burning on the bottom. You want the chicken to roast.
Now, we come now to perhaps the most disgusting second of the 9-minute video at 6 minutes and 15 seconds, where Jack begins with a jaunty little anecdote about how he and Tammy are in the old Scalfani homestead, rocking away on their rocker recliners, probably with a MyPillow under his legs. And Jack hears his Google Home assistant go off, telling him, Jack, something in the oven is ready. And Jack just sits there. He claims for 5 minutes before retrieving it from the oven. But what we are shown at 6 minutes and 15 seconds into the video, the only reason this is not the most disgusting thing we've seen is because we've seen the wet brine Cronenbird chicken.
Right.
This is a close runner-up. Oh my god. Under what banner of heaven would you even think of letting another human being record it and be proud of it? It's
incinerated.
Burnt chicken.
Yes.
But with the added benefit of there are stalactites of fat hanging off hanging off the downstage drumstick. There's not like protrusions of fat boiled off the chicken. Remember all that buttermilk gunk that we said is probably gonna like scorch and burn and render into just ungodliness onto the plate? It's there. It's clearly all over the plate. There's puddles of stuff. It's the wrong color. There's the burnt wingtips. This is exactly why you're supposed to trim the wingtips or tucking things back.
I was watching Julia and Jacques Pepin. She cooked with him for quite a while, and they would cook side by side. So he would do his rendition of a chicken, and she would do hers. But at the end, they'd taste each other's chicken, and they'd be like, "Oh, that's good. Oh, that's good."
This scorched monstrosity of an abomination of a chicken that's on our screen right now. Would you say this looks more like a Jacques chicken or more like a Julia chicken?
Jacques actually cut off the wingtips. Julia didn't, but she did truss them behind the back, like we say to do. And they also, both of them, trussed the legs to the back of the wing. And none of them look this color. It's burnt in certain areas, but it looks raw in others. And there's also powder still.
It almost looks like you cooked the chicken with napalm. And like the napalm, when the napalm combines with the human flesh and renders out the fat and then burns, there's those areas like when you see like Vietnam footage. This looks like napalm chicken because there's parts of it that are gooey raw flesh innards. Then there are parts that are blackened chunk tips. Then there's goo rendered fat running off of it. Then there's like scaly stuff hanging off the chicken.
And he thinks this is a home run. He thinks he did the best job he could ever do.
The word I could describe this is Jack is undaunted. He is, in fact, a little bit proud.
Very, very proud.
Because the Google bot told him minutes ago that the chicken was done, and he was just like, oh, I guess something's
30 minutes later, he gets up out of his recliner.
The sad part is, I don't think he was lying at that. I think he did go mush brain for 5 minutes, but then it took him 20 to 25 minutes to get off the recliner, up, find something to hold on to, waddle into the kitchen, find something to take the chicken out with, fight it one-handed. I think he might not have been exaggerating on the fact that the chicken's going to be in there for a minute longer. He just doesn't. Right. He's just not honest with himself as to how much time it takes him to do stuff. A minute
in Jack's world is probably like 30 minutes in ours.
For him to get there, yes, because of his mobility issues.
Right.
So now he's talking about missing the timer while the chicken lays there accusingly on the board. The chicken just lying there accusingly, burning itself and dripping stuff.
Now, one other thing to note here, which we didn't go through on the ingredients, and I think we maybe touched on this a little bit in the wet brine. He puts a fuck ton of red pepper flakes. This is supposed to be dinner for him and Tammy, but he's put enough red pepper flakes in there for her to not want to eat them.
Well, that's
remember, she doesn't like hot stuff.
If Jack can be described as having a cooking technique, his technique is, I deny my wife being able to eat what I cook because I put red pepper on it. I know she hates that.
To serve you and your significant other, your
Right.
wife, your husband, boyfriend, your whatever.
The mommy wife who takes care of you, who has taken care of you and your disability, who probably does all your bookkeeping for you, who probably
changes
does
your diapers,
right, exactly.
puts on Blue's Clues
shops for you,
whatever.
Oh, he only gets Blue's Clues if he's been good.
Instead of getting a carving knife and fork out,
anything. We'll even take the cleaver that he went at the wet brine chicken with. Nope. It's just Jack, his stroke hand trying to hold on to the autopsy tray, and a double pipe fork, which I hate, and he's just tearing at the breast of the chicken, trying to get some meat off of there.
With a fork, yeah,
right.
just a fork. Nothing
like he's
else.
shredding the chicken. Like he's just stabbing at it. So this is my theory that we're at 7 minutes and 8 seconds right now. This is my theory that the longer he keeps doing this, the more mommy wife is getting pissed at him, and the more angry and retaliatory Jack is getting. Because by the end of the video, when he finally gets the chicken in his gullet, he slams that fork down on the side of the tray, and he only does that when he and mommy wife have been fighting off camera.
The other thing I want to point out here is the way that it pulls. The way that the chicken pulls. It's not moist.
No.
It's fucking bone-ass dry.
Right.
It's not pulling apart easily. Like, it's not moist. It's not tender. It's just... It's like fucking, I'm trying to think of like a comparison. Chicken parts that you would get that were frozen and then you reheated. Like, you know what the consistency of that is? Like,
it's desiccated because it's been sitting at cold temperatures with goo running out of it for 5 or 6 days in the refrigerator. Plus, he put the brine on it. So that's going to remove a lot of moisture,
it's like a 5-day-old chicken.
I'm going to try wet brine versus a dry brine. We're not really understanding the chemical implications of what brining means. You're drawing moisture out of the chicken.
It's disgusting.
Right. So the last 2 minutes of the video are him trying to wrestle off a piece of
chicken.
Right, wrestle off a piece of the chicken and then pretend that it tastes good. By the way, Pink Chicken, I don't know if you noticed, but you see who's hiding out in the corner of the video?
Piggy's back.
We see you, Piggy.
We see you. We miss you, Piggy.
We miss you, Piggy. So speaking of Piggy, Jack is ripping at the chicken with his double pipe fork to try to get the biggest hunk of meat off it. No, see what I did there?
Yeah.
So he's holding it up to the camera, and you can see Jack, you can see the joy returning to Jack's face as he gets to shove meat in his mouth.
Not chicken. Meat.
Meat. In Jack mind, it all goes undifferentiated. So
now when he goes to taste the chicken, he doesn't just put it in his mouth. He licks it a little bit, and then he shoves it in. The camera, which he reset up here, is slightly off center.
I mean, he widened out his framing. Again, how Jack doesn't have any kind of system for spiking the camera and knowing exactly what his framing elements are. As a videographer, you get that sense, especially if you're in the same set every week, but let Jack go. So now he's babbling on about the fact of this video, say, oh, this chicken tastes so much better than the chicken I did in the last video. Oh my god, I would hope so, because that last chicken was still clucking.
That chicken was clucking. This one is incinerated. What's weird is if you look at
someone took a blowtorch to it.
If you look at the leg that's closest to the camera.
Oh, the one with the fat stalactites?
Yes.
Oh.
The fat stalactite leg.
Fat lactites.
There's a crack of the brine. Brine has kind of separated, and it's fucking fuchsia pink. It's disgusting.
It's so hard to tell with his bad white balance.
Yeah, exactly.
And all the JPEG and Gaussian artifacting of the JPEG compression of the video anyway. It's so hard to tell what's properly colored and what isn't colored properly on the screen. Nothing here looks good.
No.
There's none of that golden brown roasted chicken goodness.
Nope.
You're watching this and you're like, it's not attractive. Like, if you're telling me you want me to make this, I'm going to say, no, I don't want to make this because look how god-awful that looks. Even if you didn't char it, it's still not coming out presentable.
I don't understand how he can think that this is normal or good. Because every other video I've watched with somebody making a chicken, it never comes out looking like this. No. Not once. Not one video I've seen with somebody that successfully roasted a chicken has it come out looking like fucking this.
But you have to understand, those people are either professional chefs, or they're celebrity chefs, or they're just well-adjusted human beings that want to serve other people food from their heart with love.
Right.
Jack is none of those things. Jack is a tiny man-toddler Wendigo who just wants meat. Oh, I'll say anything, I'll do anything, I'll touch anything, I'll put anything in my mouth just to get a little extra meat. I'll have mommy wife drive me to Kentucky to talk to a keto bear just so I can get the sweet meat that I want in my mouth.
Wow.
And on that note...
we're at the end of the video.
Yep, just like Jack's videos of this time time period, the low effort period as we're calling it. There's no
It's
title
still kind of
cards.
low
There's
effort.
no there's no title cards. He's not hawking his sauce yet. Somewhere at the beginning of the video he mentioned, because this is early 2021, that in just a few weeks, guys, it was actually months. In just a few weeks, guys, we're gonna talk about my re-release of my sauces. Yay! And we all know how that turned out.
Right.
Spoiler alert, terribly.
That's what we got for you this time
That's
around.
what we had this episode. That's what we have for you this season. But we want you to stay tuned to us. Keep listening to our podcast. We appreciate it.
We're definitely going to have to deep dive the Julia and June episodes.
Oh yeah, that's
Oh,
going to be
yeah.
a whole thing onto itself. On a very special episode of Pink
Chicken and Lazy Man.
So that's what we have for you folks. That is the Dry Brine Part 2 of the Wet Brine versus Dry Brine test.
Sorry it took so long to get out.
The Wet Brine video was just such a watershed moment for us in watching Jack and realizing that Jack will put anything in his mouth. This one seemed almost superfluous because it wasn't as bad as the Wet Brine, but looking
It's
back
so
on
bad.
it now and paying attention to it, it's far from good. But as Pink Chicken told you, make sure you subscribe to us, make sure you follow us on Podbean and anywhere you get your podcast. Make sure you follow us on YouTube, all of our social meteors, include Truth Social.
No, Truth Social.
Stay tuned to this podcast channel or wherever you get our podcast from, because we're going to be coming up with season 5 of Pink Chicken and the Lazy Man. 5.
Hey,
5 seasons of doing this.
There's like 50-something episodes?
Something like that.
Wow,
More.
damn.
More.
More meat.
More
More
Yes,
meat.
Jack's big pyramid base of needs is just all compacted of meat. So thank you for joining us. Once again, I am Tom the Lazy Man.
I am Michelle Pink Chicken.
And together we are
Pink Chicken and the Lazy Man.
Thank you, folks. We're out of here for season 4. That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
Woohoo!
Woo!
Now we get to have the Cheez-Its.